There are few stadiums in the world that carry the sheer poetry of Emirates Stadium under the floodlights. The towering stands, the sea of red and white, the muted hope that hummed beneath the chants. Arsenal Football Club, a titan of English football history, had everything. The style, the academy, the passionate fanbase, the legend of Arsène Wenger's invincible past still lingering like the faint scent of a lost summer. But among the towering accolades of domestic triumphs and FA Cup glories, one glaring, gaping wound throbbed openly: the Champions League, the trophy that glimmered just out of reach year after year, mocking their efforts. It had not always been so. There were nights when hope genuinely bloomed. Nights when Thierry Henry danced past giants, when Cesc Fabregas outwitted kings, when the Emirates roared louder than any cathedral of football. Nights of promise that always, inevitably, crumbled into a maddening ache of what-ifs. And it all began, truly, on a fateful night in 2006. The Stade de France in Paris. May 17, 2006. Arsenal vs Barcelona. The Champions League final. Arsenal's path had been improbable. A defense that shattered records, 10 consecutive clean sheets, marshaled by the indomitable Jens Lehmann, the colossal Sol Campbell, the evergreen Kolo Touré. They had conquered Real Madrid at the Santiago Bernabéu, swept past Juventus, and outfought Villarreal in a grueling semi-final. On that warm Parisian evening, it seemed destiny itself wore red and white. The game began frantically. Ronaldinho's wicked smile flickered under the stadium lights, Eto'o prowled the box, Deco pulled invisible strings. Arsenal, compact and defiant, clung to their dream. Then disaster struck. Lehmann, usually reliable, often heroic, charged out and fouled Samuel Eto'o on the edge of the box. Red card. Arsenal reduced to 10 men with 70 minutes to play. Wenger's hands tightened at his sides. Backup keeper Manuel Almunia, untested at this level, pulled on his gloves as if strapping on the weight of a universe. The odds were catastrophic. And yet, in the 37th minute, against all laws of reason, Arsenal scored. Thierry Henry floated a free kick. Sol Campbell rose, a human skyscraper, and powered it home. 1-0 Arsenal. Against the greatest odds, the Gunners led. The Emirates faithful, the traveling fans, they dared to dream. But as the minutes bled away, exhaustion, that cruel thief, crept in. Wenger's substitutions were desperate rather than tactical. Barcelona smelled the blood of a wounded beast. Eto'o equalized. Belletti scored the dagger. 2-1. Barcelona were champions. As Henry dropped to his knees at the final whistle, Wenger looked into the sky, questioning fate itself. The night that could have rewritten history instead carved the first scar into Arsenal's soul. The years that followed felt like a cursed fairy tale. 2007, a youthful Arsenal side, led by Fabregas and Van Persie, outclassed the likes of Porto and PSV, only to crumble against a brutal and seasoned AC Milan in the round of 16. 2008, a near miracle. Arsenal stormed past Milan at the San Siro. In the quarter-finals against Liverpool, Theo Walcott's 70-yard slalom to set up Emmanuel Adebayor was a moment of pure electricity. Arsenal were heading through, until a reckless foul gifted Liverpool a penalty, and heartbreak struck again. 4-2 on aggregate. 2009, a semi-final clash against Manchester United. A team of wonderkids, led by Wenger's Dreamers, faced the clinical cruelty of Sir Alex Ferguson's monsters. Cristiano Ronaldo, ruthless and magnificent, ended the dream before it could truly blossom. 2010, Barcelona again. Arsenal's spirited 2-2 draw at the Emirates, featuring that unforgettable Nicolas Bendtner goal, gave hope. But at the Camp Nou, Lionel Messi, a blur of feet and magic, tore Arsenal apart with a 4-goal masterclass. 4-1. The pattern was brutally predictable. Brave nights, flashes of genius, and then that sickening crash to the ground. Arsenal weren't just losing games. They were losing pieces of their soul. There was a cruel irony to it. Just as Arsenal seemed ready to ascend, the financial realities of building the Emirates Stadium shackled them. Their best talents became prey to Europe's apex predators. Thierry Henry to Barcelona. Cesc Fabregas to Barcelona. Samir Nasri to Manchester City. Robin van Persie to Manchester United. Each departure was like a dagger driven deeper into the chest. Wenger patched the holes with brilliance, the dazzling Santi Cazorla, the elegant Mesut Ozil, the lethal Alexis Sanchez, but every season felt like a fragile construction of dreams atop shifting sands. The Champions League nights still came. And they still ended in devastation. If any club personified Arsenal's European agony, it was Bayern Munich. 2013, 2014, 2015, 2017. For different seasons. For brutal exits. Each time, Arsenal would approach with tentative hope. A spirited draw. An unexpected away goal. A glimpse of belief. And then, Bayern would unleash fury. 5-1. 5-1. 5-1. The scorelines blurred together into a nightmarish blur, each heavier than the last. Neuer's smirks. Robben's cut-ins. Muller's cold precision. It became less of a contest and more of a ritual sacrifice. Arsenal weren't losing anymore, they were being dismantled. The final betrayal was not delivered by European giants. It came from within. Arsène Wenger, the man who built modern Arsenal, who sculpted artistry into football, who dreamed of a purer game, stood helpless as his own kingdom collapsed. By 2017, the club's Champions League status itself was under threat. No longer guaranteed a top 4 finish in England, Arsenal slipped. And then the unthinkable. They failed to qualify for the Champions League. Europa League nights. Empty Thursday stadiums. A feeling of profound displacement. Arsenal were not supposed to be here. A grand piano playing in a pub league. It wasn't just defeats anymore. It was irrelevance. As the seasons turned, Arsenal tried everything. Unai Emery, a tactical tinkerer who reached a Europa League final but failed to ignite the true fire. Freddie Ljungberg, a temporary steward, a relic of past glories. And finally, Mikel Arteta. A former player, a Guardiola disciple, a man of vision and steel masked by gentleness. Arteta's Arsenal was different. Disciplined, aggressive, burning with the hunger of youth. Bukayo Saka. Gabriel Martinelli. William Saliba. A new generation unburdened by the ghosts of Paris 2006. By 2023, Arsenal had clawed their way back into the Champions League. The Knights returned. The anthem played once more at the Emirates. Hope, tentative but real, blossomed again. And yet, the old curse lingered. A quarter-final clash against Bayern Munich once again. Déjà vu. The first leg, Arsenal 2-2 Bayern. Promising but dangerous. The second leg, Arsenal's youthful exuberance clashed with Bayern's icy experience. Saka danced, Odegaard orchestrated, Rice battled. But experience, cruel, weary experience, triumphed. A late Musiala strike broke North London hearts yet again. Another campaign ended in devastation. Today, Arsenal fans carry a strange duality in their hearts. The wounds of Paris 2006. The scars of Messi's genius. The batterings by Bayern. And yet, the dream endures. Because that is what it means to be Arsenal. It is to believe, to hope, to sing under the floodlights even when you know heartbreak is inevitable. It is to weave beautiful football even when the world demands only results. It is to chase the perfect goal, the perfect moment. The Champions League remains elusive. But it is not out of reach. Somewhere, out there in the future, an Arsenal captain will lift that silver trophy under the stars. And when he does, the ghosts of every heartbreak, every collapse, every cruel twist of fate, will finally rest. The 2010-11 season offered Arsenal another taste of the impossible. In the round of 16, they drew Barcelona, again. But this time felt different. The first leg at the Emirates was electric. Robin van Persie, resurgent and brilliant, led the line. Jack Wilshere, just 19 years old, played like a seasoned general, running rings around Xavi and Iniesta. Samir Nasri danced on the wings. After David Villa put Barcelona ahead, it seemed familiar, another valiant loss inbound. But Arsenal fought. Van Persie equalized with an audacious shot from an impossible angle. Then, Arshavin, the mercurial Russian magician, swept home the winner. Arsenal 2-1 Barcelona. The Emirates erupted like never before. Commentators called it one of the club's greatest European nights. The second leg loomed. 90 minutes at the Camp Nou, protect the lead, survive the storm. For a while they did. But then came a moment so bizarre, so soul-crushing, it still haunts Arsenal hearts. Robin van Persie, chasing a ball, whistled offside, continued his shot barely 1 second after the whistle blew. The referee, a figure now infamous in North London folklore, pulled out a second yellow. Red card. 10-man Arsenal buckled under the pressure. Messi, as inevitable as gravity, dismantled them with surgical cruelty. Arsenal lost 3-1 on the night. Eliminated. Wenger, incandescent with rage, could only stare at the heavens once more. Not with anger at his players, but at a system, a fate, that seemed determined to deny him. By the mid-2010s, a strange malaise settled over Arsenal's European campaigns. They were not just losing, they were losing belief. In Monaco, 2015 Arsenal, heavily favored, collapsed at home 1-3 against an unfancied Monaco side. A valiant 2-0 away win was too little, too late. Olympiacos, 2015 group stage, a catastrophic home loss put them on the brink of group stage elimination. At Bayern Munich, 2017, an astonishing 10-2 aggregate defeat. Arsenal were humiliated in both legs, the worst knockout performance in club history. Each time, the same old cycle replayed. 1. Excitement during the group stage. 2. A horrific draw against a superpower, Barcelona, Bayern, etc. 3. A spirited but doomed fight. Fans began to ask an uncomfortable question. Was Arsenal mentally broken in Europe? It wasn't about tactics alone. It wasn't even about talent. It was about belief. And belief, once lost, is the hardest thing to reclaim. Throughout the years, Arsenal produced players who shone like comets on European nights, even as the team fell short. Cesc Fabregas, the boy captain. Against Milan, against Juventus, against Liverpool, he played with a heart far bigger than his years. Robin van Persie, the artist striker, a lone soldier battling giants. Jack Wilshere, that night against Barcelona at 19 remains one of the most complete midfield performances by an Englishman in modern Champions League history. Aaron Ramsey, the late surging hero, always at the right place, the right moment. And then the newer generation. Bukayo Saka, courage embodied in a teenager's frame. Martin Odegaard, a Norse general, calm and incisive. Gabriel Martinelli, relentless chaos and fearless directness. Each generation carried the burden. Each generation fell. But none allowed the dream to die. There is an old accusation hurled at Arsenal. They care more about playing beautifully than playing smart. And for much of their Champions League history, it rings painfully true. Where other teams turned cynical, time-wasting, tactical fouling, sitting deep, Arsenal often chose poetry over pragmatism. Playing out from the back under intense press. Leaving gaps while chasing late goals. Committing too many players forward. They played football the right way, Wenger's way. And in Europe, among the sharks and assassins, they paid the price. It was not incompetence. It was stubbornness. A beautiful, maddening stubbornness. In many ways, Arsenal weren't just fighting opponents. They were fighting reality itself. When Arsenal finally returned to the Champions League in 2023 after a 6-year exile, it felt like a coronation. The group stage was a procession. PSV Eindhoven? Swept aside. Sevilla? Outclassed. Lens? Crushed. The Emirates rocked. The anthem was sung louder than ever. Mikel Arteta, glistening with new trophies from FA Cup wins and a near Premier League title, seemed the perfect architect. In the round of 16, Porto awaited, a tricky but beatable opponent. First leg away, a 1-0 loss, narrow, unlucky. Second leg at home, a nerve-shredding night ending in penalties. Ramsdale's saves. Saka's calmness. The Emirates roared. Arsenal into the quarterfinals. And then, Bayern Munich. Once more onto the breach. First leg, 2-2. Arsenal, fighting. Brave. Second leg at the Allianz Arena. Martinelli injured. Saliba isolated. Rice overrun. A solitary Musiala goal sealed their fate. The final whistle sounded. Deja vu. Deja death. If you ask a seasoned Arsenal fan today, the ones who stood in the North Bank during the cold 90s, the ones who wept at Paris, the ones who cursed at Bayern, they will tell you. It's not about the trophy. Yes, they ache for that night. Yes, they dream of lifting OL big ears. But more than anything, Arsenal's Champions League journey is about the hope that never dies. The refusal to abandon beauty. The stubborn insistence that football must be more than numbers and pragmatism. It must be art. It must be heartbreak. Because if Arsenal ever do win it, and they will, it won't just be a trophy. It will be the ending to the most tragic, most beautiful story football has ever written. A promise to the future. One day, an Arsenal captain, perhaps Saka, perhaps someone not yet born, will stand beneath a starry sky, hands trembling around silver. And when he lifts that trophy high, when the red and white streamers fall, when North London explodes with joy, the world will finally understand. This was not just a football journey. It was a pilgrimage. It was redemption. It was love. And every heartbreak, every betrayal, every cruel twist. They will have all been worth it. Because Arsenal were never just chasing a cup. They were chasing a dream. And dreams, real dreams, are always worth the pain. The end. Like, comment and subscribe for more interesting stories.